What things do I most often see in older homes and newer homes? I'm about to tell you right now. My name is Teyssier, and this is Road to Close Quick Hacks. So we're gonna talk about older homes first, because there's a lot of older homes in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a super old city. A lot of things we see are crooked walls. That could also be in new construction as well. But if the walls are actually straight in old construction or original construction, I probably worry. Actually, more so than the walls is actually the floors. So what happens is a lot of times, whenever they built these homes 100 plus years ago, not only did they not have air conditioning, but they didn't have heat. So the wood would contract and expand, contract and expand, contract and expand. And over the years, I mean, like the whole thing sunk. Not to mention, they probably didn't have a very good foundation. So then you introduce heat and it contracts and expands even more. Then decades later, you introduce air conditioning and it contracts and expands even more. So it is not uncommon. And I have a lot of first-time home buyers ask me when we walk into these old homes, oh my God, the floors are sagging. There's a foundation issue. No, there's not. That's just a product of being an old home. Sometimes when you get quality renovators, what they will do is sometimes they try jacking the house up, right? That can cause a lot of problems. First of all, it's gonna be expensive. Two, there's really no return on investment. Our buyers aren't gonna come in and be like, oh, I'm gonna pay you more because the house is jacked up. The lathe and or drywall can crack, that can be a problem. Sometimes what they do is they'll just come in and put LVLs, laminated veneer lumbers, and post concrete it in the ground. Maybe they'll raise it a little bit without jacking it up to damage anything, but they'll at least usually put it in there just to support it. Sometimes some will even do a steel beam. And if people gut renovate the house, like I have a couple flippers, investors, they'll gut renovate it, so they will, and sometimes they'll even take the old chimney down. They will just jack it up because they already pulled all the drywall and the lathe off and it's not a concern anymore. Jack it up and put it all back together. That's a sign of a very good renovator, by the way. Next thing is lathe. I talked about it a little bit. So lathe is what the builders used to use pre-drywall, before they had drywall. It's kind of like a mortar. It's kind of the same mixture we use to put tile on the walls, tile on the floors. You mix it up and it's great. And they would have like this wire meshing, right? They would nail it to the studs. Now, don't take this as 100% the way it went. I wasn't around back whenever they had this stuff, but I pulled enough of it off, so this is what it looked like. So you have the studs, then you have the wire meshing. It's maybe like 4x4 sheets or something like that. They would nail it on there. Then they would take this mortar, this lathe, and put coats of it on. Sometimes it could be 1 inch thick. So lathe is the way they used to, and they would harden. And then eventually over the time they got plaster, and then eventually they got into drywall. So old homes have a lot of that lathe stuff. So back to the floors in the old homes is creaky floors. It's so old, like before drywall, before carpet, before engineered hardwood floors, they just had hardwood floors. Just hardwood floors. And as I had already mentioned, with the contracting and expanding and all that, these floors will sometimes come apart. There'll be gaps in the winter whenever things get cold, and then they go back together, and when you walk on them, they squeak. So some buyers love it. It's called character. Parents usually really love it. It's like a little alarm system. So if the adolescent teens try getting out and it squeaks, or they come in late, they know. So squeaky floors is definitely something that we have all over the place in old homes in Pittsburgh. I'm not quite sure if this would be the first ever electrical wiring, but we have something called knob and tube. So we have these knobs that are nailed to the framing and or the joists, and then there's this tube, right? And then the wire goes through this tube, and it would go all through the house. Again, old house, we're talking about way back in the day. That was the only way they were able to get electricity. And so this was revolutionary. Fast forward, it's a hazard, like a major hazard, a fire hazard. I've sold homes with no knob and tube in it. They just closed it because the only way to really get it out is you got to open up all the walls and strip it out. And that's a heck of a process. So a lot of people don't like doing that. But anymore, I mean, it was discontinued a long time ago, but there's very few homes that have knob and tube. So, and my last point I want to touch about on old homes is no AC. A lot of people think, oh my God, you have to have AC. No, in the eyes of the law or lenders, you have to have heat. Heat makes it habitable. Nowadays, you have to have heat in a home in order to get a mortgage. Air conditioning is a luxury, and there's a lot of homes in Pittsburgh that have hot water heat where you had what's called a boiler down in the basement, and you have these radiators in one in each room of the house, and they run this like water piping, right? So the boiler heats up the water and it pushes this hot water through all the pipes and through this register, right? It's called radiant heat. It's the best type of heat you can get. Why? It's not like a furnace that kicks on and off, on and off, on and off. Electric bill goes on and off, blowing dust all around. It doesn't blow anything. It just radiates heat out. It's the best way to heat a house. The only negative is there's no ductwork because, like I said, there's these metal water pipes, so to speak, that take the hot water to and fro. So there's no ductwork, so you can't get any central air. You have to either have ductwork put in, or mini splits are starting to become more and more affordable. So they're doing mini splits nowadays. So that is old homes. Well, it's pretty simple. What you see in new homes is, and it's changing very, very quickly. I mean, the way they seal the homes, they put caulking down along the drywall nowadays. All of the utilities that run through the walls, they even put caulking, so air's not really, it allows the house to breathe, but it doesn't bring cold air in or hot air in whenever it's really hot outside. So the technology is exponentially better. The mechanics, the hot water tanks, we're using tankless hot water tanks. The air handlers and furnaces have gotten a lot smaller because they've become so technologically advanced. Even shingles, we used to use shingles that were rectangular. They did away with rectangular probably about 10 years ago, right? And now they have dimensional shingles, which dimensional shingles are, they lay over top each other. And the way that shingle companies figure this out was, what happens is when roofers would put those rectangular shingles on, they would last maybe 30 or 40 years, right? And then the lazy roofers, you thought they were lazy, whenever you hired them to come out and put a new roof on, instead of them pulling all those shingles off and looking at the plywood, they said, screw it. They just put a whole nother layer of the rectangular shingles over top. So actually it was very good, and you can only do 2 layers of shingles. I've never seen 3 layers. It actually worked out really well because now you have 2 barriers, right? Even if the shingles are worn out, now the original shingles, now they're not even exposed to the elements. So you get the new shingles over top. So the shingle company said, so you're doubling it up. So we'll just make shingles that are kind of like over top each other. They're called dimensional because they're different shapes now. They're no longer rectangular. So that's another new technology piece. Of course, smart homes. The whole smart home thing is taken very long to catch on. It's usually an ultra luxury and luxury only. Alexa open the blinds in bedroom number 2. It's just not, we're just not that lazy, thank God. And that cost is just not really come down. A lot of rooftop decks in the city of Pittsburgh where I operate, not so much in the suburbs, but even out in Beaver County, I have a builder out there that's starting to do it. Rooftop decks, they cost about the same. A pitched roof has a lot of ribs of wood. A flat roof is much less wood, rubber roofing on top. You either put some Trex deck down or maintenance-free decking, or they're using like these teak wood type squares nowadays, which again is maintenance-free. Flooring-wise, my builders aren't even offering carpet anymore, and they've done away with real hardwood. The reason is most everybody is choosing engineered hardwood floors, and because of the technology, the woods and everything else has gotten so much better, you would think it's really cold on your feet, but it's going to be cold in like the 2-degree weather by not having carpet if the floor doesn't have a heating element, but it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. So that's pretty much what I see in new construction. My name is Brian Teyssier, and that is a Road to Closed Quick Hack.